an event that we look forward to because we know that you're not shy and we're going to hear what's on your mind. And we do take information from these meetings and go back and try to do the best that we can to make the city as strong as it can possibly be. So appreciate the opportunity to be here with you all. You know, a picture says 1,000 words, and just about 2 weeks ago at the Eisman Center, we had the annual State of the City address. And a year ago when I was here, I kind of gave you a summary of what had happened in that year prior. And I think I even probably commented, you know, we were really worried how would we ever meet what that year had been. And I'm here to tell you that this past year has surpassed that and all expectations that we have. And so we're going to start off by showing just a clip from the State of the City. If you weren't able to go, it is 1 hour. The clip's not going to be an hour. Don't take all the time that we'll have any room for questions. Just kidding. So no, seriously, the start to finish of the State of the City is just in an hour. And if you missed it, it really is a great presentation of pictures and milestones that we've reached. You can go on the city website and watch it without having the privacy of your own home. So I'm going to just roll the video and then I'll cover some highlights after that. Richardson played a vital role in North Texas. We're an economic powerhouse, home of the telecom corridor, with its more than 600 high-tech businesses. We also serve as home to insurance, finance, fashion, and other companies, making us the second largest employment center in the Metroplex. We're recognized by the state legislature as the international business capital of North Texas. We also continue to receive local and even national recognition as one of the happiest and best places to invest, thanks to great access to education, recreation, and safe neighborhoods. We have a lot to celebrate in Richardson, and we're thankful for your role in these stories of success.
This is the heart of growth of Richardson today, the KDC City Line Development. It is about to become the region's newest and one of the largest mixed-use and multimodal employment and retail centers. It is also the home of one of State Farm's new national corporate hubs that will soon host 8,000 new employees.
The City Line Development is now joined by Raytheon, which is bringing its new intelligence, information, and services corporate campus to our community. It means another 1,700 high-tech, high-paying jobs soon to bolster the telecom corridor. With more still to come, it's easy to see why City Line is about to become one of the hottest destinations in the Metroplex.
Almost as important as work is the importance to play, and that's why we're also celebrating the purchase of nearly 60 acres of undeveloped land here at River Plano Road near the City Line Development. It'll add to more than 48 miles of hike and bike trails and joins a 6-acre dog park under construction, plus the new Northridge Park. All examples of our commitment to improving our recreation opportunities.
We're also focused on redevelopment and retail development, making the new 1050 Barbecue a great story of success. We partnered with the creator of Chili's to bring his new restaurant concept to an abandoned building. It is now one of the hottest barbecue pits on Central Expressway. We're also working with other developers on concept plan for a restaurant park near US 75 and Spring Valley Road. Another redevelopment project renewing one of our most vital business corridors.
Richardson's health services also expanded this past year with the opening of Methodist's new Regional Medical Center here on Rare Road. With more than 900 professionals, this campus now boasts leading cardiac, maternity, oncology, and emergency treatment for Richardson and the fast-growing cities to our northeast.
And with the highly rated Richardson and Plano Independent School Districts serving our community, and with the University of Texas at Dallas and Richland College here as well, we are truly one of the best communities in not just the state, but also the nation for attracting and building intellectual capital and the workforce for the future.
wellness centers, and signature retail destinations. Companies with impeccable reputations for service and innovation. Educational institutions that promote and specialize in offering programs centered on science, technology, engineering, and math, from kindergarten to doctoral degrees. Expanding our cultural arts and recreational opportunities. And safe neighborhoods where people enjoy access to high-quality healthcare and our employment and academic amenities. These are the reasons why Richardson has developed a reputation as one of the best places to be in the Metroplex, state, and even nation. We have a lot to celebrate in Richardson, and we're thankful for your role in these stories of success. It is a good story, and I also want to introduce there's something we want to do. Greg Soul, who is up here managing that, is also our Director of Communications, and I hope that you've noticed over the last couple of years just really an emphasis on multi-means of communicating the Richardson message to you, whether it be through texting, whether it be a revised website, whether it be through email, or whether it be through the snail mail that you continue to get. So this is something that we as a council are very, very committed to, and so I really want to acknowledge Greg and his team who are just trying to keep you guys as informed as possible. In each of your places, you've gotten just a handout, and I'm going to briefly go through it and kind of talk to you about some of the highlights. And I know that there were some questions that were submitted, and perhaps during this portion of it, I will cover some of them. Then I'm going to bring Dan Johnson to come up and ask and answer some of the other questions that we knew in advance. So just a year ago, just a little over a year ago, I'm sure you all remember the ice storm that took the city by storm. We did not have electricity for many, many days, and we had record number, I think it was 13,000 brush and bulky item collections. And I think that what's so interesting about that story is when I talk about people, do you remember the ice storm? And do you remember all that bulk? And a lot of people don't remember it. And that's because our city staff were on the spot, getting it up, working 24/7 to make sure that our streets and our yards and everything that we were dealing with was cleared as quickly as possible. And I think that's the kind of service that residents in Richardson have come to demand. Trash, for example, is something that it happens in your home up to 4 times a week. We still have twice weekly trash, you can have a recycle day, and you can have a bulky. So that's something that we're very proud of and we're very committed to as a community to maintain that high level of service. Right after that, KDC announced the big announcement. So State Farm was adding a 4th building. We knew that they were going to do 3. They added another one, another 500,000 square feet across the street. We also were notified that the Richardson Fire Department got Class 1 ISO rating. And what does that mean for you? That means it's going to reduce your insurance. So again, it's one of a very few in the country, 35 I think it is, 56 in the country that have this rating. And so it's something that we don't necessarily brag enough about, but really the high quality of public protection that you all have from our Richardson Police and Fire Department is unparalleled, and we're receiving the commendations to prove that. In March was when Raytheon made its announcement, and I think that's what's so exciting about this particular announcement is it's taking us and it's staying true to our roots. Richardson was really founded as the telecom corridor, and while the telecom bust certainly forced us to relook at what we were doing as a community, we never wanted to lose our roots in telecom and in technology. And so Raytheon coming and bringing their high-tech defense state-of-the-art facility over to City Line is a validation that Richardson is in fact still the technology corridor. It's the strength of our community, and it's something that we are very proud to maintain. There's lots of reasons for it. I think many of you in this room would say that you came to this community because either you or a family member or someone in your life worked for TI or Collins Radio. And so that's really how our community was founded. And this decision and this announcement was a validation of that. And I think what's really interesting as a council is that we get a lot of unsolicited information. And sometimes, most of the times, people aren't very happy. And so, we're very accessible. And we hear from people all the time. After this announcement was made, I got dozens of unsolicited emails from Raytheon employees who were so excited to be a part of the City Line. And they're so, thrilled to be coming and joining this community. And so again, it's something that we take very seriously and we're very proud of. In March, the city received AAA bond rating from both Moody's and Standard & Poor's. This is again something that says that our credit and our financial stability is strong. And I'll have to attribute this to really just attention to the details, attention to the budgets, and a strong financial team who make sure that they are managing your money and your investment every single day. And Moody's and Standard & Poor's has validated that by giving us the AAA bond ratings. It's something that we're very interested in obtaining again. And while most of you guys were home on the snow days on Mondays and Tuesdays, we spent the morning with bond rating agencies. And so they've come back in on Monday and Tuesday to evaluate, which they do every year, and we're hopeful and optimistic that we'll maintain that rating. April is trash. We did have the largest citywide trash day in history of the city. And it was also the month that Methodist Richardson Hospital opened up its campus. And, to have an announcement like a State Farm in 1 year is enough for many years. To have two, to have a $150 million hospital coming online right off of the George Bush Freeway is really, again, it's an asset for the region. It's a great attribute for our community. And in this neighborhood in particular, we always get the question, what about, I call it BBOs because that's where I was a candy striper, what about Methodist Hospital here on Campbell Road? And you need to know that it will stay open. We are so thrilled with the partnership that we have with the Methodist Hospital system. It will still maintain an emergency room. It will have doctor's offices. And I think that what you'll find is it's going to allow them to add additional service lines that they may not have had, geriatric care, perhaps hospice, some of those things that we're missing in that continuum of healthcare that we as a community want to make sure we have it. And I'm going to have to give a shout out to the Hospital Authority Board, Mabel Simpson, who was one of those people. One of the things that I love the most about Richardson, Texas, is the legacy of leadership. And the fact that you've got ladies and gentlemen in this room who were serving this community 20, 30 years ago and making very hard decisions. And the Hospital Authority Board is one of those folks. There's a whole group of folks who realized that access to quality health care every single day for our residents was very important. And they went through it. We had a number of different partnerships that didn't necessarily work, but they were committed to making sure that you and all of our neighbors have access to quality health care. So thank you for the Hospital Authority Board, which is no longer intact because we now have the Methodist Richardson Hospital. April is also Festival Month, and so I won't go on about that. Most of you know about the Wildflower Music Festival. Then came the summer, and again, big news is that the North Texas Municipal Water District completed its 40-mile pipeline from Texoma into the Wiley Water Treatment Facility. While it doesn't solve our drought problem, it certainly alleviated some of the transportation of that water. And then in July, it was a big event, the Miss Texas pageant. Miss Texas is Miss America is actually the #1 scholarship for women in the United States. They give more scholarships to women than any other organization. And they were looking for a new home. And they decided to try out Richardson, Texas. And it ended up being a wonderful addition to our community, especially to those teenage boys who are like, wow, where are all these beautiful girls coming from? But there were a lot of beautiful girls and there are a lot of smart girls. But really, what does this mean for our community? So July 4th weekend is when this took place. This is typically not a weekend where you have a lot of hotel occupancy. The Renaissance Hotel was sold out for 8 consecutive nights in the slowest time. So we don't know for sure what the economic impact is yet, but we do know that they had record sales, that the restaurants in the region were very happy to see increase of visitors, and so we're also very proud to announce that they've chosen to come back this year. And so I think that this is the beginning of a great partnership, and they could not have been more thrilled with this community. July was when Raytheon broke ground, and then we moved on into the fall month. And, the fall is a lot about budgets. We spend, again, I think one of the questions that you as a resident should know is that, does the city manage its money well? And we do. We spend a week, 2-3 days in budget retreats. We start with an assumption of 0, with every single budget line item department. We don't just assume that because we did it last year, we just need to do it and add a little bit more to it. The truth is that Richardson benefited from having increased property valuations. And so we realized that we had additional revenue that we could put towards making this community as good as it can be. And we take that money seriously. And so we do spend quite a bit of time in this summer and the fall evaluating the budget. In July, one of the things that we hear is that recreation is important to this community. Another wonderful example of having the ability to manage our finances and having the opportunities available is the city purchased 26 acres of property at Plano and Apollo Roads. Now, where is that? That's right across from Huff Hines Rec Center. So if you're driving down Plano Road and on the left is Huff Hines and on your right is vacant land. We were able to purchase that land to use for park space. We don't know what it's going to be, but we do know one thing. The city recently did a Parks and Recreation Open Space Master Plan, which says for the next 20 years, what are the recreational needs of this community going to be? Citizen input, what is it that we want to have? Every single one of the unmet needs fits on that piece of land. So parking, perhaps, indoor water, perhaps, big box, basketball, volleyball, soccer fields, whatever the community needs moving forward. We don't know what that's going to be yet, and we don't have the funds to pay for that, but we have the land saved so that someday that will be a recreational facility for us or for our children. Moving on into the end of the year, and then I'm going to wrap it up with perhaps what I think we as a group would collectively say is one of our proudest things. So we did have the largest groundbreaking in the history of the city at Northridge Park. And this is another example of where the city uses partnerships with the school district. We built a park on school district land. And we had the children all come out and participate, all of them with shovels in hand for this groundbreaking. And they loved it. I'm not sure that the teachers loved it, but these kids actually got to be a part of breaking ground for a new playground in that neighborhood that didn't have one. This is another one of the goals of the city, to have a park within walking distance of every single neighborhood. And we were able to achieve that through the bond election that you, the residents, voted to approve. And I want to kind of summarize on that bond. As we are speaking, we are almost complete with every project that you all approved in that $66 million bond. You know, we heard loud and clear a vote of faith and affirmation that you believed it was important to reinvest in this community, but we also heard loud and clear you want to see the work done. And so we have gotten that work done, and we're proud to say that we're near completion on most of the projects that you all approved. And then finally, we did break ground on the dog park. We hear about it in resident neighborhoods all the time. This is something that I think this neighborhood will benefit greatly from, because it's just up here underneath the George Bush. This is a really unique relationship that we have. We are utilizing land that can't be used for anything else because it's on our highways and easement. And so through agreements, through utilities and TxDOT, we are able to build a dog park. And we anticipate that that will be open here shortly, in about 60 days, maybe, April. And then finally, the last thing, you know, as you look at the city line development and all the wonderful things that it brings, you know, we recognize that there's this balance of life that this community is insistent on. And we had the opportunity to purchase some land that was held in trust. The Hunt family, as you know, owned a lot of land, and a lot of people really actually thought the city owned the parkland over there. But the nature forest, the forest that's over there, the Spring Creek Nature Trail, we were able to purchase an additional 56 acres to add and dedicate as park space. So in the middle of this massive $1.5 billion development that's going to have businesses and residents, and right up in the neighborhood, we're going to have a 100-acre park in this community. And that says a lot when you're looking at a community like Richardson that is at about 96% build out. So to be able to obtain green space like we were able to obtain in the last year is something that I think we all view as an important part of what we were able to accomplish since we've done with you last. Now, I know there's a lot more, and I know you want to hear from others besides me. I am going to introduce Dan Johnson, who is the city manager. He's going to come up and answer some of the other questions that might have come up in terms of things that I might have missed on the development. And then I think we will turn it back over. So Dan Johnson is our city manager, long-term employee of the city, and you know, I think that I always love the opportunity to introduce the staff, because they really are the hardworking professionals who make sure that day in and day out this city is run well. And Dan, as the leader of that team, is the best in the region. And so we're very fortunate to have him as our city manager, and I'm thrilled to have the opportunity to introduce him. Dan.
Thank you, Nick. It is a pleasure to... It is a pleasure. Join? Okay. Well, it is a pleasure to join you all here tonight, and as we did last year, to take a minute to catch you up. In addition to some of these kind of citywide things, and I think really appreciate a State of the City message and a video and some of these things captured, because all of us have our kind of routes we go every day. And sometimes if we aren't busy heading in other directions, we don't pick up this kind of whole story. And yet at the same time, I think we sure want to make sure we're covering the features about your neighborhood. So let me kind of augment, if you will, the mayor's summary message by sharing with you that as active as you were, you heard things happening in all other corners of the city. Likewise, too, a very high attention to many things that were happening here and around the Canyon Creek area. Let me cover some of those. And again, appreciated the chance to have some thoughts ahead of time to reflect on those. Certainly, since our time last year here, we want to acknowledge that we did finish the bridge enhancements there on both Custer Lookout, great additions as you and others in the community, as an entire community. We take these older bridges and really make sure that they have the aesthetic treatment that really matches so much of the private development, some of the other ways we're going with that. University of Texas, these are so random, so just kind of bear with me as I kind of hit through some of them. University of Texas in Dallas did the first phase of a green road improvement that takes traffic, kind of keeps it off of Floyd by keeping it routing within the campus. With the schedule and the semester strategy working with the university, we're looking to get started with the second piece of that loop road. That'll be the northern part. We'll kind of move, basically come roughly just below Lookout, through Lookout, on around the campus, kind of the northwest and northeastern arch of that, we'll begin to make the loop on around. Very important. We had to just really work with the school to find a semester break time with their parking requirements to make that happen. Not technically in Canyon Creek, but certainly you drive by them every day, the Pinery and Canyon Creek condo entry features, and so many of those right there on the corner of Lookout and other places, a chance again to kind of add those place-making features and make sure that they continue to add to the aesthetic quality in this area. I want to let you know certainly that starting here just very quickly here this spring will be a street maintenance initiative going on in the Lookout, Custer, Fall Creek, Collins area. We, again, as a council 2 years ago, made a commitment to move our property tax dedication to street maintenance from 1 cent, which is about $1 million, to 2 cents, about $2 million, begin to really tackle some of these neighborhoods that have asphalt patches on behalf of their street repairs and really replace those with the concrete patches that we can now do. So we are hitting that area. It's one of the areas that was one of the higher density of those kind of asphalt patches, and we're going to make sure we get that corrected as we can. Certainly, West Prairie Creek received a interim important kind of repair project. I will tell you that street is one of the streets that's on the bond program next for consideration. I mean, the next bond program. The council has been broached about the subject about a bond program now. Again, the mayor just mentioned the wrapping up of the last program. 2015, November of 2015, and we think is a candidate time to bring forward the prospect of maybe between $50 million to maybe $60 million. And in this case, that bond program would be without a tax increase. We're really trying to pay off old debt and make the next bond opportunity happen without a tax impact. And so the candidate project for that certainly will include streets and many other considerations in the city. The council has to take a pretty wide open view of all those inputs and then narrow it down to that 50 or 60 million. But I know among key streets, Custer itself, there's a section of Custer, and West Prairie Creek, very older streets. And so we're again patching them now, but the patch situation is not even attaching to better material. So we really know we've got to deal with a rebuild situation. That's pretty interesting for the city to now be involved in kind of full rebuilds, having run the first life of many of these streets. More to come on that. The mayor mentioned, again, Methodist being involved in that. And one other thing to tell you, since the last time we were visiting here, certainly the entire Ebola interim support process is now wrapped up. The equipment is gone. They're going on with other, as you heard, senior services, other important community services for those forwards. And so I think the prospect of that even coming back is really not here. It was a bridge strategy to a national health challenge, but I think we're looking at other strategies here after that will not involve this location. So we're happy to help with that, so to speak, at the time. We've got a contingent challenge, and certainly we now just track that going forward. Certainly the Palisades zoning case, would let you know that the next step following that was appropriately for them to come in and make sure that the planning process was accurate, where they were going to put the single-family lots and the other parts of that development. That was passed in early January by the CPC. It was, again, mostly just the meets and bounds and measurements of all the property types was proper and correct, and survey-wise at the elevations of their intentions. So now they are involved in gaining engineering and land services to begin to actually do the grading. So I expect you'll see in late spring here, weather permitting, late spring on into the early summer, you'll begin to see the excavation for the single-family home process as well. Another step that says the single-family process is getting ready to happen over there is we're reviewing the deed restriction covenant guidelines and things like that, a very common thing that we would do going forward. So that continues to move forward on that project that way. On the retail front, I want to let you know that Canyon Creek Plaza, certainly right down here, you begin to watch, and certainly the old Lubies went dark for a while and very active in retailing there. Many of you already have heard that Torchy's Tacos and Tokyo Joe's are two of the four retail centers, retail eateries that are going to be in that place. They plan to put together, we're waiting for contracts to be consummated so those names can be known, but that'll be basically a fourplex of eateries that'll be there and really replace that with front patios and a lot of other kind of nice features of that kind of inline retail like the areas to the east and west of that location. Certainly appreciate, I want to pause and express our appreciation for your patience working with KCS Railroad. I think there was a meeting or two where we kept on telling you it was coming, as we knew that we had done our engineering work and we were waiting to get into their schedule, so to speak. And in addition to just getting to their schedule for the lookout crossing, which is the one that had been in the bond program we were so focused on, we were able, when we found out that they were coming for that one, to find out they were going to be doing a whole regional redo of a lot of crossings. And so we asked, how could we, rather than having to go back to the end of the line, go on and leverage other dollars that we might have and jump through some quick hoops so that we could get all of the railroad crossings in Richardson that were in an inferior state and didn't have concrete crossings to go and get changed. So that's how you saw us quickly going to put in the Custer Road crossing out in this community, and then down to Centennial and a few other places where KCS crosses within Richardson. So that now all of the KCS crossings in Richardson have the concrete crossing with the asphalt approaches as we hope to have. So we're very pleased to be able to kind of capture that and make that happen. Custer Park, within the next few weeks, weather permitting, we're going to be putting in new equipment for that park. We have this periodic rotation and making sure that our equipment stays safe and is up to date, with certainly some of the play features getting freshened up that way too. So Custer Park will enjoy some new playground placement here this spring here, just again weather permitting. I think you've noticed that the tennis court resurfacing has happened at Custer Park already. I believe just last week. It's pretty fresh that way. The mayor mentioned the dog park, and certainly just to make sure you're clear that they will be finished up, but again, weather permitting, I think this April here. So we're just on the final touches of that, and then certainly we'll enjoy having all the clears get out there and take that in. That's going to be a lot of fun. We've continued to be involved in listening to the kind of retail space that's going to be occupying City Line. And you've already heard of Jasper's, Coal Lines, and Tom Chi, tomato grilled cheese place. In fact, a very popular thing is coming to the City Line. But other very dominant types of retail is going to be happening there. Look Cinema is planning their location, and then down by the Whole Foods, which is under construction now, you can see the grade work happening there for the Whole Foods. It'll take about 9 months or so for that construction. In line with the Whole Foods will be Luna Grill, a taco diner, Mod Market, and a smash burger. So it's going to have a little bit of everything that way. And actually, in a kind of a parcel out in the middle of the parking lot there, we'll have probably a Wells Fargo Bank and a Payway, I believe it is. So something like that. It's going to be finishing up the retailing there. So very, very strong retailing up in that location. Get some stuff going down at Canyon Creek. We're really starting to have some different choices for eateries here these days. I will continue to move on here. I'm very sensitive about the time, but do want to make sure that we acknowledge the last bit of street improvements from the 2010 bond program. The mayor mentioned that, but there's some Sutton Place alley repairs that we wait for AT&T to finish up a little work, and I think that should be finished up here just this next month that way. And then we're finishing up some of the very last touch-ups. And again, appreciate the patience as we had to work on some utility relocations, not our utilities, other utilities, at the intersections there of the Alma Renner location here on this side of town, and then just further east was the Renner at Jupiter location as well. And again, those were tied to the same contractor. In both cases, came into conflicts with some private utilities we had to work around for a while. So again, I'm jumping around here, and we'll tell you also to watch and see we have new ownership on behalf of the retail space there on Alamo, right north of the Shell station there on Alamo at Central Expressway area there. And looking for a through that new developer, Half Price Books has moved down to the Heights Shopping Center, and so that's creating some new retail opportunities there, but certainly the key operators that have been there for so long, Candy Creek Arts and Cafe Brazil will stay. We'll probably get a little facade upgrade. And then actually the other inline retail in that area will probably get a real strong facelift, if not some rearrangement in there. So we're really curious, and we'll be tracking very carefully the retail work that's going to happen on that particular wedge, if you will, there of the Alamo over the Central Expressway area as well. The mayor's already talked about the Spring Creek nature, and so now having made the purchase, we're already involved in park planning processes for that. So we can begin to talk about how the trails get extended and have a chance to kind of move within those areas in the same kind of rustic, but still enjoy the safe trails and the ability to access that and link it in with all of the trail system. That is a quick hit action on a lot of things. I know I would stand by with the council to answer your questions on things that I've missed. We appreciate the interest. I look in the audience here and see so many of you that we've connected with. Many of you have been involved in helping us do the planning process, the design work for these bridges and other things. We want to tell you, we enjoy that dialogue and working with this community. What comes across so strongly is the pride in this community, your desire to keep things strong and to have them work well. And so with that, it motivates us very much, and we're pleased to be providing public services for you. This has been a very fast and productive year, we hope, as you feel, and certainly attention to your neighborhood as we try to meet the needs of the entire city all around. So with that, I want to hand it off, Susan, back to you, and certainly we'll stand by to answer questions and support the council and questions you may have today. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. We appreciate that very brief overview. I know there's so much going on, but we only have so much time, and we certainly want to leave plenty of time for our residents to ask questions of the council. So I need to make two quick announcements. One is for the Crime Watch meeting on April 2nd, I was told that there will be lots of prizes. So if you like to fight crime and you like prizes, that's what you need to do on April 2nd. And then also, I know I introduced a couple of the former elected officials. Can you hear me? Okay. Some of the former elected officials, but I also want to recognize that this is an election year. And if we have any candidates, anyone that's going to be running for a seat, if you would want to stand up. We have someone here? Is that Mabel Simpson? Mabel? Mabel will be running for place 4. Okay, thank you very much. And we did want to recognize her, so thank you. And also, I want to go ahead and bring up Dawn. Dawn is our former president of the HOA. I'm sure you guys remember Dawn. And we really appreciate him coming back here tonight to moderate this question and answer, because I'll tell you, it's a real workout. Okay, I did this last year. And it's very hard to go back and forth, and John has a certain finesse about him that really makes it a lot more fun. So we appreciate you coming back, Dawn. Come on up.
That's it. All right, how's everybody feeling? Dead? This is supposed to be caffeine with the council. Drink up, everybody. All right, so we have 2 microphones here, and the format is going to be a random draw. We're changing it up a little bit this year, always do. This year it's a little different. There's questions in here, they're random questions, and actually you will be asking the questions of the audience, and you can randomly pick the audience person that you want to come up here. So that you all get to feel what it's like to be up here. How does everybody feel about that? Good? No. We're not doing that. All right, so all right, so we have the first. We got an icebreaker question. This is a real quick, brief question. And then we have the serious stuff coming up right after that. All right. I've not seen these questions. I did not write these questions. These have been held in complete privacy. So.
They were just delivered by CPA.
That's right. Price Cooper, yes. All right. Councilman Dunn, how would you like to go first? We'll just go random.
Okay.
You look like you're prepared. And pass the microphone here. I'll turn this off. All right, 2 minutes. You're on the clock. Go.
Hello? There we go. Okay, my question is if you were planning a date night in Richardson, what would you do? First of all, I got to ask, is it with or without my wife? No? You better. I'm just picking. Well, first of all, probably I like meat, beef, and so probably start off at Texas or even 1050 barbecue. Start off there, head to Alamo for a movie, and then it would be an early one because we'd come back up here to Sweet Firefly where they have the best ice cream around. And then we don't have a wine bar, so there's not a place right there for just sitting back on wine. Maybe down at the tavern on Main Street for a late night wine. And then being empty nesters, head to the house.
We don't even know what happens after that. All right, Steve, you're next. You look me in the eye, you're next. He's shaking his head.
You know, I really wish I'd gotten Scott's question, because when you got 5 kids, you have no date night. Especially 5, 7, and under. Okay, mine was, or is, what was your favorite childhood toy? Why? And do you still have it? Well, you know, it was a long time ago. You know, I think my favorite childhood toy, I'm going to start with the one thing that I do have, is a teddy bear that actually I had. I actually had a brother that was born and died before I was born, and actually it was his, and it was given to me as a memory of my brother. And there's pictures of him and the pictures of me with it. And it's something that I have kept all these years, and I actually have it up on a bookshelf for me to look at and remember my family from. So.
Anybody got a tissue? That was a good one. Great answer. That's a tough one.
Really personal.
All right, Mr. Belver, since you have the mic, you're next.
All right.
We'll just go right down there. We might mix it up.
So my question is, what's my favorite joke? My answer is going to fall right into what you just did. So, I'm not a very good joke teller, and the ones that I can remember, I probably shouldn't say. But what I like about joking is if you can joke about yourself, because as my wife says, I give so much material. But having said that, I think it is important, especially in a public position like this, that you don't take yourself too seriously. So.
Very good. All right, Mr. Hartman.
I didn't bring my cheaters, but it says, what is your favorite NFL, NBA, Major League Baseball, and NHL teams? Well, we'll go down backwards. NHL, it was the Stars, but it's tough to watch them now. Major League Baseball, like the Rangers, but I do like the Rough Riders. It's a lot more fun to go see them. NBA, I've got a little bit of favorite, Mavericks, and my favorite sports team would be the Cowboys, because my dad and I had season tickets together till they moved from Texas Stadium to a new stadium for 30 plus years. So that's mine.
All right.
Well, mine is, what new restaurant are you most excited about coming to Richardson? Well, that's really hard. I mean, we got so many, but I guess Lynn, my wife, Jasper's, she's really, she's, not that, but I'm supposed to get excited about it, I guess. And so, when Mama's happy, I'm happy. And so, Jasper's is going to be the answer. So. Well, we just heard about that. A new, what's it called, Fishtails, or?
Yeah, Fishtails.
Fishtails is coming to Heights Shopping Center they're going to be moving in down there. So another new restaurant, and we'll have to check them out and see if they can actually boil crawfish as good as Scott or I can do it. So we'll see.
Well, I know the relatively easy one, I think, but you probably won't know, none of you'll remember these. But the question was, what was your favorite band in high school? Well, of course, it was the University of Oklahoma, Pride of Oklahoma band.
There's one fan out there.
But I guess it would be, you'll probably never even heard of Glenn Miller and his band, In the Mood. And that was the big thing back then. So it was a big band era, as well as a little bit of Ron Wells and the Texas Playboys. So combination.
And we all do that too, by the way. So, okay, so I'm the last one. So my question is, what is your favorite Winter Olympic sport and why? And now, you know, when they tell you to go into interviews and they tell you to go prepare for the season, they tell you to answer the question you want to answer, not the one that's asked. So I'm going to answer the question. My favorite summer Olympic sport is swimming. And so I have a son that I'm very proud of who has an Olympic trials cut and will be headed to the next Olympic trials. So in my family, we don't believe there's such a thing as a Winter Olympics. But if we do have to watch the Winter Olympics, I'm personally going to watch the skiing because I actually spent my formative years before I moved to Dallas, Richardson, by the way, living in Denver, Colorado, and I learned how to snow ski. So downhill skiing is something that I really still enjoy, and I enjoy watching.
All right. All the fun stuff is out of the way now. Time to get down to business. And I swear I didn't write any of these questions. In fact, I'm just going to leave the mic up here and I'm going out there. Just kidding. All right. Are there any volunteers to go? I'll wait till you get the questions. Oh, here we go. You got the floor, you got the mic?
Yeah, well, I'll start because I know we want to get as many questions answered as we possibly can. So my question is, what is the big box retail ordinance and why is it important? So we hear a lot about Walmart, especially in this neighborhood. And so I will tell you that the big box ordinance was not designed to necessarily fight Walmart. But what it really was designed to do is it's an ordinance that says that if you are a big box retail, and we define what that means in Richardson as 70,000 square feet or bigger, you have to come before the city for a special use permit. Now, to give you a little perspective on what does that really feel like? What's that size? So if you think about the Walmart that's going in at Arapahoe and Coit, is 92,000 square feet. And so if that particular organization were to try to come into Richardson, they would come before the council. What that does is, and the CPC for us. And what that really does is it allows us to control the quality of big retail that comes to the community. And it allows neighborhoods to know what's going to be coming. And so public hearings will take place. And candidly, retailers want to come where they're wanted. And so it will allow all the residents the opportunity to weigh in any big box retail that's going to come into the city.
All right, very good.
Well, thank you very much for this question. It's a little rough one. The question is, we hear about, stand up.
When you make your presentation, would you please stand up? Thank you very much, John.
It's okay, thank you. Okay, we hear about town and gown with UTD. Why is that important? Name 3 concrete benefits or businesses that have come from it. Well, UTD is so very important to the businesses in our area. You know, originally, I mean, one of the first things that happened after UTD started expanding was the Texas Instruments building their new building out on Renner Road, just across the street, in fact, almost. And they got $50 million from the state of Texas as an incentive for that, and they immediately turned around and gave it to UTD to build a new engineering building. TI recognizes the benefit of having UTD there, that they will supply the talent that TI and other companies need to be successful. In addition, so many companies have said that it is very important to have this educational facility in our community. a few years back, Benning Engineering from Germany, they told me that the reason they selected Richardson for their North American headquarters was because of UTD and the talent that comes out of that school. Just last night, we were at an event in downtown Dallas with Lynn Tech Corporation and UTD. They have a partnership. And Lynn Tech, you probably don't know much about them. They're basically the 3M of Japan. And they are expanding, and they now have a presence in Richardson. They have presence all across the United States. But it's going to be a very exciting new development that they're coming up with that is going to be very important to the city of Richardson. So there are so many reasons that businesses are happy to have UTD here in Richardson. And well, it's just so important to our community all the way around. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Well, my question is one that's really very timely. It says, we have several new state legislators representing our area. Who are they, and how are they helping Richardson? Is there anything we should be watching during the legislative session? Well, if you're really interested in comedy, besides, you might want to tune in. It's really a little early right now because not all the bills have been introduced. The final deadline for introducing bills is the middle of March. I think it's March the 15th. And so we've been watching it very, very closely to see what's going to happen. Of course, we do have a new group of legislators down there. The newest one is our state senator, Van Taylor. He's serving his first term as a state senator. Jeff Leach, of course, was reelected, and Angie Chen Button was reelected. And then representing part of the city is Linda Coop, representing the very southwestern section of the city, Linda Coop. And you may remember Linda up here in this area. I guess she does come up and pick up part of UTD and that area over there, though. So that's correct. Linda served on the Dallas City Council for many years and was very active in Dallas and other areas before serving on the council. And so Linda is very attuned to the issues of cities and the things that cities are very concerned about. So we're looking to Linda to be very helpful. Some of the other representatives, we're going to be watching and seeing what they are going to be doing. Some of their comments of late have been interesting. We will be meeting with them next week. We go to Alston for Collin County Days. Down there, Collin County Day, we go down with the Collin County Chamber of Commerce and the Plano Chamber of Commerce as we go down and talk to some of the legislators down there on their issues. And then we will stay down the next day and meet with them again, representing the Richardson Chamber. Bill Spruill and his group will be going down. We'll be talking about some of the issues that are very important to us as they come around this year. And so it's going to be, with a whole new group down there, it's going to be very interesting. Angie has been moved into a chairmanship position by the speaker. So that's going to gives us a little clout there, having a member of one of our delegation who is an actual chairman. So it's going to be an interesting year with us. We're very much on tune to it. Fred Hill is still working with us as he works with us to try to keep a pulse on what's happening down in Austin, because it is very critical to us. We don't get any state aid as such. They are very controlling to us, whereas Texas is unusual in that our local governments fund local government, not the state. So we are a little bit different than that in most other areas. And so it's going to be interesting, and we want to keep it that way. We believe local control is right here in Richardson. You tell us what you want to do, and we'll do it. And we listen. We're here tonight. Obviously, that's an indication of that. And we believe that needs to stay that way. We don't want Austin, just like Austin doesn't want Washington telling them what they want to do, what they want them to do. We don't want Austin telling us what we do. We want to be able to respond to your questions and your needs in a rapid way. And so that's what we'll be doing. So hopefully that'll work.
Thank you, sir. My question is, what is the next big thing happening in Richardson that we do not know about yet? Let me get my crystal ball out here. Now, I think one of the big things that we'll see continuing in 2015 is the new retail that will be coming into the area. Down at the restaurant park, I think we'll see a lot of new, some that being built out, additional restaurants and places to shop. So that down there. Also, some of the backfill in the retail, in the office buildings that State Farm, once they move into City Line, will be vacated. And I think we'll probably see a couple companies maybe move in this next year to backfill those office buildings. And then the third thing, I think you said 3 things? No, big things, okay. And then,
3 things would be good.
There were 3. All right. And then one other thing, and it was mentioned too a little earlier, which is already known about, is the 2015 bond probably that we'll be doing in November, which will be a no tax increase to the citizens. So that's some stuff. So thank you.
Okay. Yeah, let's see. What is the outlook for the water shortage? Wow. Where is your crystal ball?
We need more.
We need more. As we know, we're in stage 3 right now, and probably won't come out of that anytime in the near future. As the mayor indicated earlier, the Texoma is online, helping fill up Lavon, not fill it up, but put water in Lavon, and that we'll probably, even if we ever get it filled back up, we'll stay some type of water restrictions just to supply the demand. And then they are building north of Bonham is Bodark, new reservoir that they're getting ready to put online too. So, but right now we'll probably stay stage 3 for the near future and probably all the way through summer. Dan's shaking his head over there. As probably so. So as right now, the water shortage is still short.
My question is, what is the status of the Cotton Belt DART project? I'm just going to turn the microphone over to Gary. I kid a little bit, but as you may know, Gary Slagle is our representative on the DART board and is doing yeoman's work in making sure the plans are established and then potentially executed. Earlier mentioned was Bill Spruill. I'm going to give a shout out to Bill. A little background on my position, particularly on DART. I had the pleasure of being on the board of the Chamber of Commerce for quite a few years. When I was chairman, the Cotton Belt was something I took up as a platform issue for me during that serving. One of the reasons was because I worked right over on Synergy and Waterview. And my office there, I had a lab that I was responsible for Hewlett Packard, where we had 3 labs in the world. One was in Shanghai, one was in Grenoble, France, and I ran the one in Richardson. And we would have people coming back and forth between these labs all the time. Of course, the guys in Shanghai and France typically took their high-speed trains to the airport and then flew into DFW. My dream was that I could have those people get off of that plane in DFW and take a commuter rail right to the back of Richardson, stay in a hotel, never have to rent a car, and be very familiar with that kind of transportation. So that's why I personally took up the Cotton Belt so strongly when I was working in the chamber activities. I continue to support it as a councilman. I wish things were, that I could announce some neat stuff right now. Like many things in life, it comes down to funding. And currently, I think it's 2030, Gary's nodding, yeah, that the Cotton Belt is on the plans for. My hair is going to be a lot more gray by that time. So in between 2030 and today, I know that especially the mayor, I'll shout out to Laura, working with other mayors along that Cotton Belt line, we're trying to come up with ways that the city's public and private partnerships might work to bring that timeline forward. But it is a challenge. I know there's lots of things on the table. I think Laura, you and some staff spent some time out in California recently looking at other options besides trains. So those things are all being worked. Unfortunately, there's no news that I can say in the next 5 years you're going to be going on a nice, relatively high-speed train to the airport and catching a flight, but that's our goal.
Okay, that's all the time we have tonight.
I was just saying you can be able to get on LBJ and pay a toll and get to the airport pretty fast.
All right, Steve, I have to give you a hard time.
Well, you know, it wouldn't be the same without that.
I try to let you off.
Yeah, just get the hook, okay? You know, one of the disadvantages of going last is I want to answer every one of these questions, but I will spare you. My question is, what are some of the key items that need to be included in the next bond offering? Well, I'm going to kind of take a page out of what Laura said. I'm going to kind of answer that question, but seriously though, who saw the Dallas Morning News last week where it talked about Richardson being the new boom town? Okay, raise your hands. Okay, don't be shy. Let me tell you what, it is that kind of growth in our tax base that allows us to be able to look at actually doing a November 15 bond package for $50 million with no tax increase. That is amazing, folks. You know, one of the things that that article highlighted is all the new that's going in, but I'll tell you what, we still have a lot of things that are 30 and 40 and 50 years old, 60 years old if you live down in my area of town. And I will tell you that this bond package, and now we're only in initial stages of discussion on what we want to see and that type of thing, but what we're going to do is that we're going to focus on the basics. It's going to be infrastructure, maintenance, public safety, and then if we have additional monies left over, then we can focus on things like parks and rec and that type of thing. Because what we've done is we basically looked at what can we fund with no tax increase because of this very healthy tax base, and then from there we determine the amount. And so as I said, we're in the initial stages of discussing what we want to do with a proposed $50 million package, but it's going to be focused on the basics, and then once we get those basics done, if there's anything left, then we'll look at that. So that's kind of the key items. Thank you.
All right, listen, thank you everyone thank you council for being good sports and coming out here, and we don't take this for granted. We know that you give a lot of time to the city and to our neighborhood, and we're very fortunate to have you out here, but we're not finished yet. So we have, obviously our neighborhood is out here, and we'd like to open up the floor for some questions now for about the next 15 minutes. We promised to get you out by 8:30, and you know, perhaps if there's anything else, you can send an email or catch them on the way out. So with that, if anybody has any questions, no questions? All right. Here we go, question. Who can use this mic?
Really? I probably don't need it. Thank you. As a longtime resident, someone who watched Richardson develop without green land, green space, and parkland, that kind of came afterwards. Okay, you've really rectified a lot of that. I think it's a thing to be proud of, and I am proud of you for that and for our city. However, we're having the Palisades project and all of these different named growth projects that are near us. What are you doing about traffic? Traffic through our neighborhood, traffic on Fall Creek, traffic on Custer, traffic on Lookout, Collins, everything. What are you doing? Because that cannot be an afterthought. We have a quality of life associated with being out here. We're a very outdoorsy community, and we're out, and we need to feel safe on our sidewalks and safe on our roads.
Okay, who would like to take that one? Could be a blind draw here. I'm moving to the left.
I'll happily stand and take this question. Okay, so the question was, what are we going to do about traffic? And I think that couple things that I think y'all as residents need to know. We understand it is going to be a problem. It is already a problem, traffic in this community. So part of our job is to anticipate potentially what the needs are today and down the road. And so we recognize that we bring in 10,000 new employees at State Farm. There's going to be some traffic implications. We've already begun working on Winter Road. We're adding additional lanes, ins and outs, synchronization of signals. We're working with SDOT on increasing the capacity on US 75. President George Bush, as you will see very shortly, they are going to add an additional lane. And if you notice from the tollway towards us, you probably are driving down there and you think, wow, that's an awful wide lane over there for a wreck. It's really intentional so that they could add an additional lane. That will come online immediately. It's one of the top priorities. We've done the traffic studies and we do recognize that there is going to be increased traffic. And we are willing to add additional lanes. We're adding easier ingress and egress out of it and do whatever we can to mitigate it. Yes?
How do we control the speed, like down Lookout Drive? We live on the west side of
Speed.
Custer.
Sure.
And they're going 50 miles an hour down the road.
That's a good question. I don't want to answer all the questions, but or y'all want me to continue to answer speed and traffic? I'm happy. I really didn't think I was going to become a transportation person when I became a council person. I really thought I was going to do something fun like parks. But I do spend a whole lot of time worrying about transportation and US 75 and George Bush and DART and the Cotton Belt and all the other things because candidly, the ability for, a lot of people lose sight of, and especially as those of us who've been here a long time and we slowly felt the city grow. We're a tale of two cities. We have 100,000 plus residents who sleep here at night. We have 130,000 employees who come to work here every single day right now. That number's going to increase to 140,000. We're the second largest employment center outside of downtown. And so what does that mean? That means we have got to be diligent about letting people get in and out of our communities efficiently, safely, and quickly. So to answer your thing, we don't want to drive too fast. So, a couple of years ago in this very, very meeting, we got a lot of questions about that bike lane on Custer Road. We had some very frustrated people that they didn't want to see the bike lanes. But I will tell you, there's two reasons for bike lanes. One is bikes, but the other is actually to slow traffic. And I think that if you talk to your neighbors who live on Custer Road, even some of those who were very opposed to the idea of the bike lanes, they will tell you, not even reluctantly anymore, that it has in fact slowed traffic. So we look at all sorts of ways to slow traffic. Lookout, same thing. We can also, if there's a particular street where you feel like there's a problem, you see those signs that they say your speed, your current speed, we'll bring those out and we'll monitor it. And we can increase the enforcement because candidly, I can tell you, I don't speed as I'm getting out of US 75 at Campbell Road anymore. One ticket and I was cured of that problem. And so, that is part of what we do is we make sure that there are places in our city that there are police officers giving speeding tickets. People are speeding and it will slow you down.
Well, Lookout is could be 3 lanes. And when people come and visit me and park in front of my house, I'm afraid for them to get out of the car. Because they're driving so fast down on Lookout.
Okay, so one of the wonderful benefits out of the meetings like this is we hear things like that. And so the city staff here, they're taking notes. We'll have, again, enforcement, we'll have someone Lookout. It does work. And Custer and all the other major ones. I'm with you, Prairie Creek. My dog got hit on Prairie Creek Drive.
How many kids practice there every day of the week?
Right. Yeah, they do. You're right.
And I have 2 sets of kids that practice there, and people still fly by there. It's going to take one kid kicking a soccer ball chasing out there to be killed.
Completely agree. So I'll tell you my own personal story about my dog, my 130-pound Weimaraner, who got out in Prairie Creek Drive and got hit by a car. Did $2,000 worth of damage to the car. The car admittedly was speeding and was not really concerned because they thought my dog was dead. But when my dog rattled off, came to me for the bill. So, I mean, I personally experienced it. Dogs, kids, everything. It's a problem. And enforcement's one of the things we need to do. Yes, Mr. Sproul.
I want to change the subject. One of the things I was really pleased about, that's okay, I can speak loud enough, was the public art program here in Richardson. And, we're a maturing community, and one of the things I'm really proud of about this council and other councils is they've been thoughtful about how to add amenities to our city that makes it a more enviable place to live. And Mayor, I would just want you to talk for just a moment about public art and the master plan and what it means to Canyon Creek.
Okay, so did everybody hear the question? Steve, do you want to do it? No, you can go ahead. Okay, so public art. Well, really, let's just take a step back. Art in general. So the city of Richardson is a very culturally interesting community, and it's one of our biggest strengths. And so in the past, we've had the Arts Commission, and because we recognize that art isn't just art. I mean, there's cultural art. And so actually, in the last year, we've renamed the Arts Commission to the Cultural Arts Commission. Things that's come out of that is a study for art, a master plan for art. Some of the things that have fallen out of that, and I think one of them is actually on your sheet, is you can now go to the city website and there's a separate page about all the arts and cultural events that are taking place in the community. You can be sitting in one of these new restaurants and say, wow, it's 8 o'clock, what can we do? You can go to the app and you can click on it and you can find out what's going on in this community in the arts world. It's something that we are very, very excited about and we've gotten great feedback on. And then a fallout of that is, of course, the public art. And, public art is one of those things that, when you're in a city that has it, and you know where there's the cows or whatever it is. And so, public art is also something that's very important to our community, but I think we're going to go about it a little bit differently. The first example of public art is the beloved rocket ship. Over at the Science Park, I still have the skin knee. Scar on my knee from when I went up the wrong way. But, that rocket ship was something that was very beloved by so many people in this community. And for safety reasons, we had to take it down. And so rather than just saying goodbye, we realized that it gave us an opportunity to give a nod to our history. And so we commissioned an art piece out of the rocket ship that is now that's on the gateway between the new rec center and into the park. And if you haven't driven by it at night, it's fabulous. It's lit up. And it's really, again, I think as you question what kind of art will Richardson bring to the community, public art, I think it will be those things that acknowledge where we've come from, our history, technology. And it's not going to be just cutesy and necessarily thematic, but I think it will be things that are meaningful to this community. As you drive by, it will draw you back to those times when you were at the rocket ship or you worked at college radio or for whatever piece it is that we happen to do, which will be a tribute to our past. So it's something that we're very excited about and will be coming forward.
If you don't mind, get away from aesthetics for a second. And back to safety. One street we haven't mentioned, the whole neighborhood, Bird Meadows, is closed off by Collins. And there's so much traffic in Collins. I'm talking really fast traffic. I know Lookout has a lot of traffic, but Collins is where everybody goes.
Okay, we'll add that to our list of streets spending Collins. Sure.
I mean, I drove through a lot of areas in North Dallas, and they're a little road and slow people down. And I know it's uncomfortable, but probably, somebody mentioned when somebody gets hit, I think it's why we have to.
Yeah, we've actually done an example. We have options for road homes in the city.
Were you wanting me to talk about road humps or public art or all the above? Well, let me talk about 3 quick things. Transportation. US 75. How many people would like to get on the HOV lane there? It's like looking at it. Right now you cannot actually travel on the HOV lane through Richardson. That is our #1 advocacy for.
I'll answer the question, you just lip it and then we'll. Okay.
You know what?
I've got a big voice here. Okay, what it is that we submitted
a very long list of probably about 15 items to kind of a consortium of cities to advocate for improvements on US 75, because clearly when you look at the needs of US 75 and Richardson, they are a lot different than what you've got the needs up in McKinney. Believe me, trust me. But one of our biggest goals is to get on-off access to the HOV lanes in Richardson. It's very important. You know, and what's made it even more important, and hindsight's always 20/20, is the fact that now we particularly need it to go southbound to be able to catch the HOV lanes on LBJ. It's very important. So no, that's something that Laura and I both work a lot on. Actually, I'm the co-chair for the Dallas Regional Mobility Coalition, which is an advocacy arm for the RTC, which is what Laura is a member of. But all that being said is that we are very focused on improvements in transportation, particularly the US 75 and the George Bush Artery. Public art and arts, I don't know, many of you may not know this, but the city actually funds arts through the Cultural Arts Commission, which I am the council liaison to, for the tune of $350,000. And I will tell you that it is money well spent. And I will tell you this, is that whenever you have a corporation or a business, particularly a big one, that's looking to relocate, they have checklists of things that they are looking for. And frequently they're saying, we're looking for a symphony. We're looking for this, we're looking for that. They want something vibrant, they want a strong cultural arts plan. And that's why this city is very committed to the cultural arts. And as Laura said, just in the last year, we have renamed the Arts Commission the Cultural Arts Commission to actually dovetail with our Cultural Arts Master Plan, which includes a component of public art. And so right now, the Cultural Arts Commission is actually working through some of the details on public art. What you're going to see, I believe, in a lot of these new developments, particularly to the north, is it's actually going to be privately funded. And I think you're going to see some pretty exciting pieces, so stay tuned on that.
Just one other quick.
Speed bumps. You know, I will tell you one of the things that we struggle with. We have one street in Richardson that actually went through this process. It's in I believe the 700 or 800 block of Dumont, down in Richardson Heights. The real challenge with speed humps is people want them, but frequently don't want them in their house. So I'm not really answering your question directly, just talking about speed humps in general. But one of the things that we enacted about 6 years ago was basically a traffic calming tool chest that involves road humps, speed bumps, traffic calming devices, that if groups of neighborhoods got together, people got together and looked at what the issues were, worked with the city, and that we would work with them to try to come up with ways to mitigate and calm the speed through the neighborhoods. Now, some of these streets like Dumont, a bike lane may not be feasible, but you know what this group did? They actually put in 3 sets of speed bumps, and it actually did calm the speed by 20 to 30%. So Don Magner, out of here. Don Magner and his team have a lot of information on that. So if you have a specific area, aside from the ones that we've talked about, we certainly want to partner with you to see what we can do, to see if there are some of these components of this toolkit that we can actually try to implement in your area. So there you go.
I just wanted to make one quick pre-announcement. Dan doesn't know I'm going to say this, but I'm the liaison to the library. And speaking of art, as of yesterday, and there'll be a press release coming out. I'm excited that we have a 3D printer now in the Richardson Public Library. Don't all rush at once because the staff's still trying to get used to it. But you can create your own art, whether it be something from your grandkids, your kids, or if you want to do something exciting, you now have a resource. And well, it's not been announced yet. But I thought I'd answer the question of what's the next big thing. It's a 3D printer.
All right, we got time for one more question, 2 more questions, and then we're done.
I heard recently that
Prairie Creek Elementary is going to be expanding their building. Do you have any more specifics, so if you can characterize that and what the implications might be for the neighborhood?
So one of the things, this will kind of let me foray into some of the other topics that, obviously questions that when we bring on developments like Palisades, the thing that we heard loud and clear from this community is what's the impact on our elementary school? And it's already crowded, and, what's this going to mean? And so I think that as a council, I will stand up here and confidently say that we have all the faith in the world in our public school systems in this community. We're very fortunate that we have PISD and RIC who are an amazingly strong, forward-thinking school district. So it was recently announced that Prairie Creek Elementary will be getting 6 additional classrooms. It will be built. There is land. My kids went to Prairie Creek. We all know there's space back there in that deluge where they don't really get to do anything. And I think it's an example of the school district working in partnership with the community and looking ahead, not only to meet the needs of the kids who are in the school right now, but those that are going to come. And we don't know where those kids are going to come from. And candidly, I don't even know it's going to be these developments, because all I know is that neighborhood kids are being transferred out of Prairie Creek because of a size issue. And so the school district is very forward-thinking, and they've anticipated a need, and it is on the slot to have 6 additional classrooms. And so it's another example of where, as the community continues to grow, neighborhoods and neighborhood schools benefit from that. And so I think that Prairie Creek Elementary will benefit greatly from having 6 additional classrooms. That's a true rumor.
As a decade-long volunteer for the arts, Richardson Arts Alliance, I love everything you guys are doing. I want to go back to this lady's question over here about the traffic that Palisades is going to do on the west side versus the several State Farm is going to do. And also, we have an access problem getting on 275 from our neighborhood. It's going to be added to with the Palisades development as well. So, love the art, but let's deal with that.
Okay, so that's a statement about traffic. And again, let me go ahead and talk a little bit. Steve alluded to it, and again, I think that something that this neighborhood will certainly be impacted is this US 75 study. And TxDOT is, again, I think Mr. Golfer said it, the conversation about transportation starts and ends with funding. So I'm just going to go ahead and tell you all that the state doesn't have the funding to do a lot of these projects that we're all interested in. But TxDOT does recognize that 75 is certainly got a capacity problem today. And so as you look forward to what is going to happen to this region and the population growth is going to occur, we also recognize that traffic is going to only get worse. And so we have been in conversations with TxDOT for now a couple years here, and came together as a council with some input from the community about what are the things that are important to this community about US 75. So Diane, I'm going to kind of answer your question. We recognize that there's not the capacity now. And, so as an Aggie engineer, I can go ahead and tell you the easy way to add lanes is just widen. We'll just add extra lanes and off you go. But that's not acceptable to us. Because if you look at LBJ and you start heading north on US 75, you see that to simply widen US 75 will decimate the business community along Richardson, where our access roads are a little closer to the freeway. So that was not an acceptable answer to us. As you go further out through Plano, they too, and the way it works is if the freeway touches a portion of a building, the whole building has to go down. And so we recognize that there could be a potentially big economic problem for our community. Plano's the same way. To get further north, they allowed for a little wider easement. So what we've done is we've come together. We've come together as cities. All the cities along this corridor have gathered, and we've come up with what we call our common guiding principles, because we recognize when you have Richardson talking along with Plano and McKinney and Allen, and we're one voice, it's a lot harder to ignore us. And so some of the things that we as a council have agreed to is, one, that's not simply the answer. You can't simply widen it. The other thing that's very important to us is that it can't go up and down. As you go through Austin, you realize that, we're honest, US 75 is the spine through our community. And so what we don't want is it to further divide the east from the west. And so if you just add a second deck on top of that, that's going to cause problems. So we've said that's not acceptable to us either. So if there's going to be additional lanes, then they have to go below. Steve acknowledged, no ingress and egress out of the HOV lanes. It makes me absolutely crazy when I to the news and they say, slow down in Richardson, Texas, and you drive down, it's because they're giving tickets to the HOV members, and we can't even get in and out of that. So that is very important to us, to be able to get access in and out of the HOV lanes. The visual appeal, we recognize that highways are ugly, and so it's been very important to us to share with TxDOT that we want this to be pretty and so acceptable. And so those are some of the things that we are working with TxDOT as they're developing their plans. We recognize that we're going to have to address the capacity in and out of Palisades, in and out of State, and in and out of even Nortel campuses. And so we're working with the transportation departments to try to address those issues.
I understand the whole purpose of the HOV lane, and I'm a traffic engineer, and I worked with it long ago too, and I understand the reason for it. But that reason has disappeared. I mean, to solve an immediate problem, people are not as dumb as politicians think they are. If you remove the HOV lane, all the people who are going from Dallas to McKinney will use the far left and the lane next to that. The traffic moves so much better without HOV lanes. And I mean, they really restricted us by having no exits on the whole thing. I mean, so if you're gonna work at State Farm, but you live down in Dallas, they just assume, well, we take the dark trend, but that's not how it is. I mean, couldn't they at least temporarily give you
That's one of the things that I think we've asked for them to consider is temporarily removing, as they do the study, just to see what the traffic patterns are. You know, there's going to be a lot of confusion. As you said, you can just get on the HOV towards the DFW airport, but there's a lot of confusion on what that means. And so we really have, that is one of the requests we've made of the folks down in Austin. And, you know, and I got to tell you, so to answer, I guess it was Mark's question earlier about our state legislators. You know, Jeff Leach has committed to us publicly that transportation is going to be his topic. He has held forums at UT Dallas. He's brought together experts, you know, and so I think that one of the things that we as a community have to do is we have to allow the legislature to try to address it. So there's a small window where they said they're going to fix some of these problems, and I believe that Jeff is going to try very hard to do it. We're in constant communication about these challenges, the things, the suggestions that you're making. And we're hopeful that through all these, again, common voices, the things that we're asking, things like the temporary removal could happen. So we're working with the state to try to get it done.
Let's do one more question. We got a late start, so we'll go ahead.
Have we found a tenant for, is there a tenant to backfill all the State Farm offices in Gallatin in the Nortel building?
Yeah, that was, since, you know, we recognize that the state farm is moving out of one of our big challenges moving forward, let's see if I can hold this just right, will be to backfill. We actually do have some strong leads on that. You know, we recognize that office space is not good, and so KBC and others have been working on that since really State Farm started construction. There's been this recognition that that was temporary, and that while they may be there during the construction phase, you know, State Farm employees have already started moving into the buildings, and so we are working diligently to try to secure. And so I think that you might see some announcements coming out about that as they start vacating this. Any others? All right, well, thank you all so much. We really do appreciate the opportunity to share with you and your questions.
Hey there, how are you? No, I mean, no worries. Ray.